Hi, my name is Andrea, and today I'm going to be talking about one of the key principles behind befriending grief. So, as a reminder, there are three key principles that I've come up with as I've been creating the program, my grief circles, and the book that I'm writing. And they're all around areas that I feel like we really need to reconnect with. Three areas that we've become hugely disconnected with in our modern culture. One of them is reconnecting with nature. A second is reconnecting with our true nature as mortal human beings. And the third is reconnecting with one another through communal grief practices. So, I'm going to be talking today about reconnecting with our true nature as mortal human beings. I'm tacking that on to the end. But reconnecting with our true nature is a big, broad topic. But in relation to grief and loss, I noticed, especially during the pandemic, I really was aware that many people had not lost somebody to death. And that it was something that really caught everybody off guard. It was almost like our mortality was right in our face. And that was totally understandable, and myself included, and I've lost people close to me. So it's, I can understand it. And at the same time, I was kind of floored by it. So I decided to dig into this and really understand what was happening. And I come to the realization that I think that because we've lost our connection to nature itself, and if you haven't watched that video, you might want to check it out. But because we've lost the connection with nature itself, of course, we've lost our connection to our true nature as part of the ecosystem. And so, as I was thinking about this, I turned to nature for answers, like I always do. And I was reminded that actually the seasons and the cycles in nature are hugely beneficial to us when we're moving through times of loss. And I've done it many cycles over the years. And I started pulling resources together. And as I was doing this, I took a look at the seasons and I came up with a methodology because, as we know, grief is not linear. The stages of grief are kind of a myth. And there's not a whole lot out there in terms of what can we rely on, because grief, the truth is that it is messy. It is unpredictable. One day you're feeling one way, the next day, even the next moment, you're feeling something totally different. It can feel very erratic. It can feel very messy and very unpredictable. So I don't want to take that away because that is the way that it is, especially if you're new to grief, if you've experienced a recent loss. Over time, I think that we can start to find some stability within that messiness by tapping into the energies and the qualities of the seasons that we're living in. Now, it's really easy for me to take a look outside and tap into these energies because I live in the Midwest. And the seasons are changing all the time. We have definitely four seasons. I love that about living here. And I'd like to explain very briefly for you how I've taken the seasons and tapped into them through the lens of grief. So if you think about, so we are right now, as I'm recording this, it is September of 2024. And so this Sunday actually is the fall equinox. And so that marks the first day of fall when things begin to shift. So the equinox is equal day and night, and there's some balance there. And over time, we'll shift a little bit closer to winter, where the days are going to get a little bit shorter and a little bit shorter every day. And the nights become long. And in the fall, we have some very predictable things that happen. So if you think about what happens in the fall, the leaves begin to fall, right? The trees shed their leaves. the air changes from being humid and damp to cool and dry. A lot of times the wind will pick up, and that helps certainly with the leaves falling, much to our chagrin sometimes because those fall leaves are so beautiful. We begin to naturally crave different foods in the fall. So we go into a season of putting on our cozy sweatshirts and craving less and less cold salads and watermelons and fruits and ice cream. Well, maybe we'll always crave ice cream, but we start to naturally crave warmer, kind of more moist, kind of that, real cozy food that we can feel full on. And there are reasons for that. Our bodies are trying to find balance. And so, if we're always trying to find balance, I find that very, very helpful in grief because we are thrown way off balance when we have lost somebody or something close to us. It can feel like we are untethered, ungrounded, and like our life is very chaotic. So I love the idea of tapping into the energies and the qualities of the seasons as a way that we can find that stability. We can count on it happening, so we can trust in nature. We can trust that this is going to be happening, that the seasons are going to change. And we need that when we're in grief. And for our health benefit, it's really important that we balance the energies that we're feeling. So in the fall, we can start to get really ungrounded because of all the airy qualities, and we're back to school. We've got the holidays coming up. Everything is very hectic. And so fall is just one example. So and it happens to be the season that we're in right now. Then we move into winter. And in winter, boy, I'm learning to embrace winter. Once winter solstice happens, we are now like at that solstice time, we're at the darkest day. And so that darkness, that quietness that naturally occurs at that time of year is something that we can tap into. And if as we're working through grief, we can use that time for reflection, to go inward, to really back away from the outside world as much as we can. It's not easy in our modern culture, but we can take the time to contemplate our lives, to really think about things, just think about our lives, think about our loved ones, do some writing, do some introspective activities, journaling, all of those very quiet activities, even mostly our self-care, I should say, not even taking long naps, resting, hibernating. All of those things are what we should be doing at the holiday time. And think about what we actually do at the holiday time. It is the exact opposite from hibernation and quiet contemplation, right? We are doing holiday parties, we are shopping, we are extending ourselves. No wonder we get sick at this time of year, the very time that we are supposed to be resting and really digesting our experiences of life. We are not doing that. We are making New Year's resolutions in January. Not exactly the best time to do that. No wonder we fail. We fail at that. We get sick. And most of all, we don't allow ourselves that crucial time to be with ourselves, to be with our families, and take a step back from the outside world a little bit. Then we can move into spring. And so the energies and the qualities of spring, if you think about it, we've got Easter, so you've got new beginnings. We've got flowers starting to poke up. Here in the Midwest, we probably still have some snow by the time we get to that spring equinox period, where the day and night again are the same length. But we start to have that melt. We start to the ice and the snow is melting and thawing. So we've got this kind of rivers of water that are running everywhere. Everybody starts to kind of peek their heads outside. We might see evidence of crocuses and tulips popping up. That is the prime time to start to realign ourselves with a new year. That's the time. If you want to set resolutions, by the way, this is a side note, do it then. That's the time that we are meant to be doing that. It's the time that we're meant to be rewriting our story if we want to, realigning with the new reality that we are no longer with that person that we lost. Or if we're working through a different type of loss, we're working through a new reality based on whatever loss it actually was. Then we move into summer. And as we all know, summer is outward expression. Summer means hot days, those longer days that give us the sunlight that we've needed to grow the crops. That's our time to be out in the world a little bit more. And if you're new to grief, you might not be yet there. But if you're a little bit further along, that would be the time to share your story with people, to do some outward expression of maybe artwork, maybe painting, drawing, pottery, storytelling, acting. It doesn't matter what that is, something that you can actively engage with and be out in the world with. That's the time to do it. Might not be right away, definitely not right away, but over time, and over cycles, you can see that this is a way that you can actively engage with the process of grief. And I agree with people when they say you don't just get over grief, you don't just get over loss. But I will tell you, as you actively engage with your grief through some grief practices that I'm pulling together for my program, over the course of the years after a big loss, you can move through these cycles over and over again, and you will notice that that pain will change. It'll shift. And that gives me a lot of hope, and hopefully it gives you some hope and encouragement if you're new to grief, that there are things that you can do. There are mind and body and spirit practices that you can do. And that is all of the juiciness of the program that I'm building. And it's the membership program. And even in our circles, we'll talk a lot about this, a lot about what are some of the things that we can do to actively engage with our grief, depending on what season we're in. So I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea of one of the key principles of befriending grief. And I'm looking forward to sharing more with you soon. Take good care of yourself. Bye-bye.